Now at 5 and streaming on crossroadstoday.com, an Odessa man indicted on charges of assault of a public servant and criminal mischief.
Israel continues its assault on the terrorist militant group Hamas after their attack this past weekend.
And Louisiana representative wins the GOP nomination for House Speaker.
We had a rather dreary day, wouldn't you say? But the rain was nice, but the skies are beginning to clear. The rain is pulling away, and by tomorrow we'll see quite a bit of sunshine. And the weekend, you're really going to like the weekend. We'll have all that coming up.
An elementary teacher in Humble accused of giving students melatonin gummies. That teacher has resigned. You're watching 25 News Now at 5. Good afternoon. Thank you for being with us. I'm James Munoz.
And I'm Karina Garcia.
A Fort Worth school district worker was fatally shot in the parking lot of an elementary school this morning. It happened at David K. Sellers Elementary in Forest Hill. Police have not released any information about the victim, the suspect, a motive, or an arrest. The district referred to the victim as a beloved staff member. They assured the public there was no ongoing threat or danger to the school or the community. Additional counseling staff was called in for students and teachers. A Wharton County grand jury has indicted 17-year-old Logan Kennison Allen of Odessa. He's accused of assault of a public servant and criminal mischief. Allen was taken into custody July 13th in El Campo. He's in the Wharton County Jail in lieu of a $51,000 bond.
Israel continues its aerial assault on targets in the Gaza. Hundreds of thousands of Israeli troops were called in to launch a ground invasion against Hamas militants in Gaza.
Israeli leaders say at least 1,200 people were killed in Israel. The Palestinian Health Authority reported more than 1,000 people were killed in Gaza.
Thick smoke rising over Gaza City as Israel's military continues its retaliatory strikes following last weekend's horrific attack by hundreds of Hamas terrorists who infiltrated Israel. The brutality of those attacks coming to light, the Israel Defense Force saying it's discovered the bodies of murdered women and small children.
The more we learn about these sickening atrocities, the worse it gets. Hamas deliberately targeted civilians and massacred them just because they are Jews.
Yoshi Schneider says this chilling footage posted online shows his cousin, Shiri Bibas, and her 9-month-old and 3-year-old children being taken prisoner.
They're not warriors, they're not soldiers. They're young women, young babies and Holocaust survivors and handicaps.
Israel's military says they struck more than 200 targets in Gaza overnight. Gaza's power authority now says it has run out of fuel and electricity. Hospitals there are filled to capacity with Palestinians who've been injured. One American citizen in Gaza trying to evacuate with her 3 children, telling ABC she feels abandoned by the U.S. Embassy.
They say we're gonna get you, but we don't hear anything from them. We all wanna get out of here.
Meanwhile, the attacks from Hamas militants continue. A barrage of rockets fired into southern Israel early Wednesday morning. ABC's Matt Gutman on the ground in Ashkelon.
Those are interceptors taking out the Hamas rockets. We think this has been going on all day long, explosion after explosion. So many people in this town have just left.
U.S. military aid has already arrived in Israel. President Biden speaking with Prime Minister Netanyahu again today.
There is no justification for terrorism. My commitment to Israel's security and the safety of the Jewish people is unshakable.
And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and opposition leader Benny Gantz now agreeing to form an emergency unity government in the wake of these attacks. Inez de la Quatera, ABC News, Tel Aviv, Israel.
Here's more on that emergency unity government. The cabinet brings together a degree of unity after years of bitterly divisive politics as the Israeli military appears increasingly likely to launch a ground offensive into Gaza. The new cabinet will consist of the prime minister, a senior opposition figure, and former defense minister, and the current defense minister. It will focus only on the war.
Traumatic events such as the violence in Israel and Gaza can cause a sense of stress and anxiety, especially and among children.
Here's how to talk to children about what's happening in the world and how to comfort them.
The images are scary and heartbreaking. As violence continues in Israel and Gaza, it can all feel overwhelming.
You might have personal connections to it, You might be experiencing some triggers from something from your past. And so it's really important to just be aware of what you're feeling and then let go of any shame or judgment around that.
Licensed therapist Jody Baumstein says for young children who haven't been exposed to accounts of the violence, there's no need to talk to them about it. But for older kids who have heard about or seen violent things, she says to be proactive. Don't wait for them to come to you. Talk to them. It's okay to not have answers to their questions.
Really, that's not what they need. Kids don't need a script. They need you to be in it with them and let them know they're not alone in it.
Baumstein says to let them guide the conversation based on what's on their minds. Then listen and offer ways to cope.
How to kind of check their thoughts and see if it's accurate and it's helpful. And you're teaching them strategies to regulate. So if they're feeling overwhelmed, there are things that they can do to calm their body and calm their mind.
If it all feels too overwhelming, take a break from the exposure to the violence. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Refugio County commissioners extended the burn ban there this morning. The burn ban was extended for 30 days. There are still drought conditions north of the Refugio U.S. Highway 77 corridor. The burn ban was put into effect in Refugio County June 27th. Mac, this is almost pumpkin bread weather. What gives?
Well, we're almost there in terms of getting more rain and cooler weather. Today, a little on the soupy side, I understand, but you know, the rain was fairly light over most areas. You can see how the rain is really pulling out of here, and the cloud deck is clearing out to the west. We should be seeing starry skies by a couple hours from now. And tomorrow, we're going to see a lot of sunshine, no rain tomorrow. And then the cold front comes in for the weekend just in time. That's going to make it even nicer. We'll have all that coming up in just a moment, so stay tuned.
Thank you so much for that. Louisiana Representative Steve Scalise has won the House GOP's nomination for Speaker. The final tally from the secret ballot vote was 113 for Scalise and 99 for Jim Jordan. The threshold to succeed was a simple majority of the conference, but for Scalise to formally become Speaker, he'll need 217 votes, a majority of the entire chamber. With the Republicans' thin majority, Scalise will need the support of almost all GOP members. A floor vote of the whole House was canceled this afternoon.
U.S. Congressman District 27 Michael Cloud vowed to vote against Scalise to be the next House Speaker. Congressman Cloud told the Texas Tribune, quote, "While I respect Steve Scalise, the underhanded efforts to rush this vote to the floor without getting full buy-in from the conference is extremely ill-advised, and I will not be supporting the nomination on the floor," unquote. The cost of the Ken Paxton impeachment trial, nearly $100,000 and counting. The Dallas Morning News reports the Texas Senate and Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick have spent more than $96,000 on the impeachment trial. Most of the Senate expenses were for court reporters during the trial. Patrick's office hired outside lawyers that charged nearly $57,000 to fight a suit challenging the trial rules. The House Board of Managers said they are still adding up their total cost. And so here is your viewer poll this afternoon. You can scan that QR code on your screen to vote. The question is, was the Ken Paxton impeachment trial worth the cost of nearly $100,000? Yes or no? We want to hear your opinion on this. Come to crossroadstoday.com/vote to take part, and we're going to have an update tonight at 6.
A kindergarten teacher in Humble has resigned after she was accused of slipping melatonin gummies to students in a special education class.
Now the mother of the 5-year-old boy is speaking out.
This mom says she's afraid to send her 5-year-old son to school after the principal called saying his teacher was secretly slipping him and other students melatonin.
They found it was melatonin gummies. I don't know the strength. They did find the bottle in the classroom from what I understand. We just noticed at least on 3 occasions when he came home, he was completely lethargic. He was stumbling to get off the bus.
Her son Wilder is nonverbal and is in a special education class at Pine Forest Elementary. She says his teacher has called her before.
She had called me a few times asking, what do you do at home? What do you suggest at home to get him to calm down? He's very active, and we sometimes have a hard time getting him to focus back on the task at hand.
And did she ever mention to you giving him melatonin?
No, the only thing that, now that I think about it, is she had asked, like, besides favorite snacks, does he like gummies? Does he take gummy vitamins?
It is possible for children to overdose on melatonin. According to a CDC study from 2012 to 2021, Poison Control received more than 260,000 reports of children ingesting melatonin. 4,000 kids were hospitalized during that period, 5 children placed on ventilators, and 2 of those children died.
Your brain naturally produces this, but I don't know what dosage it was.
Humble ISD sent us a statement saying in part the district took immediate action to launch an investigation. Our investigation found that the teacher did give out melatonin, acting on her own and without obtaining parent permission. A spokesperson also says the district is appalled and the teacher's actions were unacceptable. The teacher, who we aren't naming since she hasn't been charged, was allowed to resign and no longer works for the district. But this mother worries she might just apply to a different district.
It's a breach of trust. We don't want this happening to somebody else. It was melatonin this time, but what if it was something else?
When asked why the teacher was not fired, a district spokesperson said accepting a resignation is more efficient and that firing a teacher under state law can be a drawn-out process. The district, however, is still continuing its investigation. Here are some of the top headlines you can read in the Port Lavaca Wave. The Seadrift City Council has approved funding to support the Combat Marine Outdoors Initiative. The program has brought veterans to the city for 15 years for outdoor activities. Plus, the commercial heifer show and sale at the Calhoun County Fair will teach young people the details about cattle production. You can read these stories and more at theportlavacawave.com. You might have seen some gas stations in Victoria where prices have dropped under $3 a gallon. AAA Texas reports the average gas price per gallon in Victoria is $3.10 a gallon. That's 10 cents lower than it was a week ago and 16 cents lower than a month ago. AAA Texas reports the average gas price in Texas is $3.16 a gallon.
The De Leon Club of Victoria is hosting a Hispanic recognition celebration tonight. It starts at 6:30. The 2023 honorees are Dr. Estela de los Santos, Cesar Ornelas, and Clara Ramos. This is taking place at the UHV Multipurpose Room in the North Building, 3007 North Ben Wilson Street. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today. Hit the like button and click the notification bell. Straight ahead on 25 News Now at 5, Congressman George Santos is facing 10 new federal charges, including allegations of stealing donors' identities.
Also ahead, a new report highlights the impact of climate change on young people's mental health. Is accused of stealing the identities of donors and running up thousands of dollars in fraudulent charges on their credit cards. 10 new charges announced in an indictment on Tuesday replaced the earlier case against Santos. They include allegations he embezzled cash from his company and conspired with his former campaign treasurer to falsify donation totals to hit fundraising targets set by national Republicans. It brings the total number of counts against him to 23.
The con man purportedly known as George Santos should resign. Multiple Democratic members of Congress and Republican members of Congress have called on him to resign. I believe if a motion to expel was put on the floor, it would pass. He can save himself that embarrassment by simply resigning.
This indictment provides new and damaging details about Santos' efforts to personally profit through his campaign. The new charges come days after his treasurer during the 2022 campaign pleaded guilty to a count of conspiracy to defraud the U.S. by committing one or more federal offenses.
A new report shows phenomenon linked to climate change can strain the mental health of young people. The report is from the environmental advocacy group and the American Psychiatric Association. It points to extreme heat, poor air quality, and natural disasters. The study shows they can make young people worry about the future and give them PTSD. It says they also might cause issues like anxiety, depression, aggression, and more. Researchers believe disasters can be harder on younger people if they have yet to develop coping skills. A Halloween display in Arkansas in a neighborhood is causing a divide.
Neighbors there say they believe it should have never been put up in the first place.
This display is supposed to be Halloween decorations, but for neighbors on this street and in the town, that is not what they saw. The decorations are garbage bags that resemble bodies hanging from trees with rope. Willis Chambers and his family live across the street and say they were shocked when they first saw it.
When I'm bagging my car out, the first thing I see in the rearview mirror is the silhouette of a black man hanging out of a tree. So the first thing you see, you grow up, you seeing all the movies, you seeing all the stuff in school and different stuff like that, so a lot of it's fear.
Chantel Chambers says law enforcement was called to ask them to take it down. It wasn't until Monday evening when she says City Councilman David Leach spoke with the homeowners. They started to take down the display.
20 or 30 minutes later, he began to start taking it down because it was so many people out here.
They took the hanging bodies out of the tree, but they still left up the person standing there with the hood and the noose in his hand and different things like that. And they wind up taking it down.
Prior to this, the Chambers say they have had a few disputes with the homeowners since last Thanksgiving. Many times they've had the cops called on them and say each time there was no substance to the complaint. Willis says for the safety of him and his family, he just wants it to stop.
We just want this particular situation to stop being harassed by the neighbors and have to endure this type of stuff. My grandkids, my daughter, my wife, having to see this kind of just outlandish type of racism that they're trying to express, in my view.
KATV did try to get a comment from the homeowners who put the display up in their yard. We rang the doorbell and knocked on the door several times, but were unable to get a response. KATV was told there was an apology posted on a private Facebook page, but we have not been able to see it.
An elementary school in Iowa is switching from its usual Halloween-themed events to fall-themed events. The Humboldt Community School District superintendent says it's for the best interest of students. A newsletter sent to parents says there are students who don't celebrate Halloween due to religious or cultural reasons. The superintendent says staff made the decision also for reasons beyond religion, like lost time in the classroom, families being unable to buy costumes, and some students simply not celebrating.
Here's some of the top headlines you can read in the Cuero Record. Carl Bowen running for re-election as DeWitt County Sheriff. And Cuero Turkey Fest is this weekend, October 13th through the 15th, and you don't want to miss out. You can read these stories and more at DeWittCountyToday.com.
Well, we had some dreary skies out there, a little light rain pretty much all day long, but that is ending. The rain is pulling out and the clouds will be pulling out pretty soon. Your temperature right now is at 73, and that sounds pretty good. We only managed to get up to 74 today, which puts us a good almost 10 degrees below our average. But tomorrow you'll see the sun, and for the weekend, whoa, it's going to be a good one. We're going to talk about it coming up in a moment. Good afternoon, everybody. A little bit of cloud cover still over the area. Here's Victoria, here's Edna, Port Lavaca. You can see how it's thinning out, and you'll see a little break in the cloud cover certainly by tonight. All of this is pulling away. This is part of all that tropical moisture that blew in from the Pacific Ocean. You can see the streams that are still a little bit heavier going across deep South Texas, where they're getting some heavier rain right off the Gulf there. But by and large, most of the state will be clearing out. Here's the total rainfall. When you see the dark greens here, you can see that we've got about an inch in most areas, which was good because it was not a heavy rain that caused any kind of flooding or downpour. A little bit heavier activity up in Houston and also down south. That's over the last 12 hours. So now we're going to go to the next 12 hours. So we're going into the future, and notice how Future Tracker has the clouds thinning out, everything pulling out into the Gulf of Mexico and continuing northeast. In fact, the people that are really going to get the heaviest activity will be along the Gulf Coast over there in Florida. So we then are waiting for another cool, dry front. If you liked last weekend, you're really going to like this coming weekend. It's going to be pretty much the same. You can almost see the little front coming in on Friday. Let's see, yeah, Friday night it'll be through here. So we've got a warm day ahead of it and then cooler days behind it. Very pleasant weather should be around for the weekend. Looking at tonight's lows, getting down to 65, so not particularly cool yet because this is still warm and humid air, but it's a little bit drier up in West Texas, and that's what we're going to be looking at down here. As a matter of fact, we'll be in the 50s over the weekend. The only thing is that tonight, with all the moisture in the air and on the ground, we're probably going to see some pretty widespread fog tomorrow morning. I don't know, if you're doing long haul driving or just trying to get across the street, you may have to deal with some foggy areas. We'll get up into the 80s tomorrow with the sunshine. We take a look at the remnants of Lydia. Lydia's right here. Came into not far south of Guadalajara. It came in, fell apart, and all that streaming moisture is what's moving northbound and moving away from our area. So very little chance that we'll get any additional significant rainfall out of it, just a little cloud cover or two. They're the two systems that are now headed to Florida. They're going to get the big stuff. Now for us, we're watching here, big deep storm developing in the Rockies, another one of those winter storms bringing snow to the higher elevations. And then the frontal system comes in probably Friday night. By Saturday morning, we'll feel a brisk north wind blowing through the area, clearing things out. Perfect timing for observing the eclipse. Now here in yellow, you see the states that will be able to see the eclipse, assuming the weather's good. And in this green band, you'll see where they get the maximum view. And you notice it comes right over our house. So we will be sitting pretty. People in the other sides of the world are going to be jealous because they're not going to get to see the same eclipse that we get. If you get a chance to go fishing, just remember that your morning sunrise is at 7:27. Sundown is at 7 o'clock. Light rain overnight, early in the morning possibly, and then clearing up very nicely, getting up to the mid-80s. Again, clearing skies in the morning and then better sunshine. And then the little front comes in Friday night for a beautiful Saturday, Sunday with lows in the 50s and highs barely 80 degrees. That's your 7-day forecast. Reminding everybody we do have a QR code. Love for you to scan that and put Crossroads Today on your phone. We'll toss it back to James and Karina.
Mac, thank you so much. Coming up next on 25 News Now at 5, we'll take a look at your stocks. Plus, the world's fourth largest energy company is planning a nearly $60 billion acquisition.
Taking a look at your stocks, the Dow up 66 points, the S&P 500 up 18 points, and the Nasdaq up 96 points. Oil down $2.48, closing at $83.49 a barrel. ExxonMobil is buying its rival Pioneer Natural Resources for $59.5 billion. Both Texas-based companies made the announcement about the all-stock deal today. It's Exxon's biggest deal since it acquired Mobil in 1999 for $75 billion. The move will create a shale drilling giant in the Permian Basin, the highest producing oil field in the U.S. Exxon said the transaction should improve U.S. energy security, ultimately benefiting the American economy and consumers.
President Biden unveiled new actions to crack down on junk fees. The FTC unveiled a proposed rule that would require businesses to disclose mandatory fees up front. It would also prevent businesses, including event ticketing providers and hotels, from levying unexpected service charges. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau will also take steps to prohibit banks and credit unions from charging consumers who want to check account balances. Cities in the state are looking for new ways to encourage more home construction. You can read this Texas Tribune story on crossroadstoday.com.
And stay with us. We'll take one last look at your forecast. Plus, a Marine veteran completes a 7,000-mile journey on the back of his horse. Plus, here's a look at world news tonight, right after 25 News Now at 5.
Tonight, the brutal war in Israel.
It's something that I never saw in my life.
Innocent families mourn while others just wait for news. As rockets light up the sky, David Muir and team report from Israel. Tonight on World News Tonight with David Muir.
A Marine veteran has just completed a cross-country horseback journey for a good cause. He finished a nearly 7,000-mile journey across 17 states on the back of a horse named Buck. It was done to raise awareness for veterans suffering from PTSD. For him, the long journey was one of healing and hope as he dealt with his own mental health struggles. The former Marine has founded the Righteous Life Rescue Ranch to help other vets who face the same challenges. The number to call is 988. There's help out there, but good for him that he found an outlet.
A cowboy with a cause.
It's a good-looking horse.
Yeah, and amazing. That's a lot of saddle riding.
Yeah.
That's a lot of saddle riding. Well, folks, the gloomy skies are thinning out right now, and by tomorrow we'll see quite a bit of sun. That'll help get us back into the mid-80s. We'll be almost 90 degrees Friday, but still a good Friday night for football. And then Friday night, a nice little front blows through, giving us a beautiful Saturday, Sunday with temperatures around 80 degrees, but with a north wind bringing in very dry air, which will make it very comfortable at night. The evenings, Saturday night and Sunday night, going to be spectacular. And then we're fairly quiet until next Wednesday, 7 days from now, when we get the next frontal system blowing through the area. So clearing skies for tomorrow.
And remind us, hurricane season's almost over.
Well, officially it's November the 30th. Hurricane Center, but for us, I always say October the 30th,
Okay.
because by that time we have so many cold fronts coming through that we seldom have a landfall in Texas in that time. But November, the end of November will be the end of the hurricane season.
Well, thank goodness for a clear year season this year.
We went,
Yeah.
we did well. We did well.
All right, thank you, Mac. Thank you for being with us.
We hope to see you back here tonight for 25 News Now at 6. World News Tonight with David Muir is up next.